what is the most important part in the service? And 99% of the people answered the customer satisfaction, which is true, but it's
Correct.
also wrong. It's true, but it's wrong. Customer satisfaction is not the target. Customer satisfaction is a tool.
From the workshop floors of Bologna to leading Ducati service operations across 15 Asia Pacific markets, today's guest has truly built an understanding and international career. Along the way, he's improved customer experience, dealer performance, recall completion, and trained more than 150 service managers. This is the tidbit that got me hooked. Welcome to the podcast, Attilio Guidetti. Thank you very much, sir, for taking the time today to spend a few with us, share some of your stories, and I pray that I said that name correctly that time around.
Well, good evening, Joshua, and thank you to having me at your podcast. Very nice to be here, and very nice to talk to you after a long time. We are meeting. And look, as the name was correct, and you have also to consider my Italian, so my English a little bit rust. So it's okay if you get the name done or not done properly. That's pretty nice. Well, the story was beginning long time ago, because in my childhood, when I was kid, and I'm talking about kid of 4 or 5 years old, my father shared with me a lot of different passion. He was a good tennis player. He was interested in astrophysics, the moon and the stars and the planet. He was interested in box, the fighting box sport. He was interested in automotive, so racing car, Formula One. At the time, we were looking pretty much in Italy. There was only Formula One and some rally stars to watch on TV. And he had a motorcycle, 3.5 was the name, 350. And so staying with him, I got some of his passion, and the automotive part and the, the motorcycle part is what get me deeper. And I clearly remember I was probably 7 or 8 years old, something like that. And I was, watching, looking at this small magazine for kids, the comics for kids. And I found inside this comic a voucher for a ride on a small motorcycle, a motocross. At the time in my city, Bologna, in the north of Italy, there was an winter event. We were calling Motor Show of Bologna. And I got this voucher to ride in a motorcycle, a small kid's motorcycle, of course, a small motocross. And I was very happy with my voucher. I went with my father, hand by hand, arrived there. And I was so excited, my first time on a motorcycle from the bicycle, uh, the guy was there at the arena. I said, "Do you know how to ride a motorcycle?" He asked me. Of course, I don't. I know how to ride a bicycle, but never ride a motorcycle before. Okay, so he gave me a helmet. The helmet was pretty big, pretty huge, kind of astronaut helmet. You are a motorcyclist. You know that the helmet has to be fit and tight on your face, and squeeze your face. And that,
Yeah.
yeah, and that helmet was so big, it was sitting on my shoulder. I can move my head inside like an astronaut. It was unbelievable. And then, okay, so he started the engine, pulling the cord. He started the engine and say, "Okay, are you ready to go?" And I say, "Well, I don't know." Okay, so no problem. This is the throttle for go, and those two, because was a single gear, two are the brake, just like your bicycle. So you don't worry, accelerate and brake with two lever. Fine to me. And he pushed me a little bit. I gave throttle, and I start to
Mm.
ride, and then I tried to pull the brake, and then bam! I didn't make the curve. At the first curve, my experience was last probably 30 meters, 50 meters, I don't know. At the first curve, I didn't turn. I went back again to the wall. I didn't have a single scratch, luckily. But the helmet was working and the speed was not that much, I can imagine. And then was the end of my first journey on a motorcycle. But what is the point of this story? The point is not the experience. The point is that I was so excited to try to test ride this motorcycle that finally I didn't get it. I've done 30 meters, 50 meters. I did not really enjoy. I was thinking to make, 2 or 3 laps, 4 laps, something like that. No, I done 30 meters and that's it. So they take my motorcycle. My father brought me outside, said, are you okay? And my experience was over. And what happened? I had to this crash, this missing experience, say that, it didn't turn me off. It actually gave me the feeling I want to try again. I want to ride the motorcycle. I want to try. I didn't. I haven't. I just started a little bit. I did not complete my journey. So I want to do it. And I had to wait many, many years, up to 14 years, to get my second ride. And so the feeling for me, when you are, I'm 53, 5 years, 6 years at my age, they are like this, especially if you're busy with work and things and stuff and family. 6 years, boom, passed. But when you are 8, 7, arrived to 14 is a life. It's a
Hmm.
lifetime. Time never passes. Thinking and wondering, how can I do on a motorcycle? And then I arrive finally, I get my first motorcycle again. I mean, my first own motorcycle. Then I start, but that instead of put me down, increase my passion, my willing, my feeling, my passion for motorcycles, my passion for cars, my passion for motors and engine was actually increasing inside me. That was the main hook that get me into this passion. Who knows? Perhaps if I would have completed my 3, 4 laps, I like it, I didn't, case is closed, and maybe I would have completely changed the career. Maybe I might have got the tennis side of my father or the scientist side. But that experience hooked me into the motorcycles and into the cars because I've done also cars in my life. And I think that was the beginning. Then, of course, I've done the school.
Hmm.
For me, one of the way to move the passion into a job, into a career, was the automotive school. I've done 5 years of automotive school, not far from my home, and that was the direction I take. From the passion, from the childhood, from the kid, from the dream into job, into a career path, which I actually did not even know was starting in that way. And that was how did I begin. Probably thanks to that motorcycle, to that voucher.
Interesting to hear that something as simple as an offer, as a voucher, as a coupon, as you might say, brought you into something that has basically been a lifelong career, a lifelong passion, a purpose that many, interestingly, on the show had led to repair specifically. There's a lot of mechanics and technicians out there who are second, third generation repairers of things, whether it's a mechanic in the automotive industry or the motorcycle industry or whatever the case may be. That generations of passion, that generations of leadership from family members who are in service of some description has come to be. But in your circumstance, it happened to be a voucher to go use a little tiny little motorcycle to the first time. And then subsequently, unlike what we hear on a regular basis and stereotypes, is that when you crash out and something occurs and you never want to do it again. The quite opposite occurs where it led you down a path. Well, I want to experience more. 30 meters or 50 meters was more than enough for you to go, yes, I like this. I want to do more of this. I want to do a lot more of this. And it's an interesting paradox to the certain extent, because what would have happened, as you said, what would have happened if you had gotten those 4 laps? What would have happened if you were really good at it right off rip and got to do 4 laps and it was just another Sunday, right? What would have
Correct.
happened? We will never know. But it's interesting how each one of those pieces fall into place. And now fast forward here, you're in your 50s and you've spent a career helping people level up, dealerships level up, leadership level up in service in various different ways. And now you're doing it to an extent where you're coaching service managers to improve dealership performance and things of that nature. It's interesting how one life moment basically set a career in motion. So to that point, and I know that was kind of where the passion ignited and kind of where you got your start. It wasn't your start in the industry, but it was your start to be in the industry. Now you've had some changes, and we discussed before we started recording that there's kind of been some starts, sort of a couple of starts, as it were. So perhaps in the interest of being succinct for our audience who's looking very specifically for perhaps the most recent stuff, what was your start that allowed you to get you into a position where you're coaching service managers? Walk us through that. What was it? What were the things that got you the opportunity to lead and coach service managers on an international scale? And then what was it like kind of in your first year? Because we'll use that as your first year, because that's kind of like the question that I usually ask, what was your first year like? So once you got that opportunity, what was that first year of doing something that you've never done before on a especially on an international scale?
Uh, it's a very um, difficult point to start. And if you let me begin from a little bit earlier, because there are certain, stones that I would like to bring you through before
Please.
to arrive to this point, because the decision to continue on this career was not born yet. Actually, as I said, after the school, I've decided to work into a racing team. Actually, I worked for two racing teams, like the mechanic, the mechanic at the pit lane. I was pretty young. And after the school, you are passionate, you've done the school, love the motorcycle, you love the car, you have from the family. What is the best thing you can do? Of course, with a very, very limited budget I had at that time, because there are many things better than that I could have done with a lot of money, but no budget at times. So in order to be in the best position I could, was pit lane mechanic. I want to change the tire. I want to refuel in the car when the racing car arrive. So I had the opportunity to do that in two different occasions for the Formula 3, for the Italian Championship, and for Super Turismo. I believe you know what Formula 3 is, but maybe not what
Hmm.
Super Turismo is. Super Turismo it was at that time like a NASCAR you have in North America, but instead to turn on the ovals, they run on the standard track like a Formula 1 track, but the complete body shell car like a NASCAR.
This is like Super Turismo is like threes and
At that
like
time we have
the mid-size sedans, mid-size
correct,
Euro sedans.
correct,
Yeah.
correct. With the Alfa Romeo 155 at that time.
Hmm.
And, I was so excited. Yes, my passion. I go and I've done 2 years in this situation, and I discover that I might have made a mistake. That is not what I want. Yes, that fulfills my passion. Is motors, fast, speed, racing, but was not enough. I don't know, was not, but my passion was there, but my life was not there. I was missing something. That was not exactly what I wanted for my life. And so I had opportunity because a workshop not far from home was looking for a service advisor. Now, today, I'll call it service advisor. At that time, I did not even know what a service advisor was. So
Some service advisors don't know what they are.
but today at least I have more clear idea. But at that I understand if you say that, if you say so, I totally understand, because the workshop was a small workshop with probably 5 or 6 bays, no more than that. And so I was doing the mechanic, I was doing the service advisor, I road test the car, I was doing so many things. But the one that hooked me most was the test ride the car with the client. So the
Hmm.
car goes like this, is happy, is not happy, and talking with him about the maintenance, about the proposal, about what to do next, what the service advisor does. So
Hmm.
and that was the most interesting part, and I thought that was more much better for me, even though the situation was local in a workshop. I was not going around anymore in the weekend. I don't see a thousand of people. I don't see a racing car, but I was talking to the client. I was talking to the people, and I start to think that was my passion, really. Still working with the cars, still my passion, still the motor, still the engines, but with the people.
Hmm.
And I love that. I love that. And I was working like most of us, many hours a day. I was not looking at the watch, and I was very passionate about that. Then after a few years of this, I felt like that I wanted to go somewhere. I was in somehow never happy. I like to do this. I want to go somewhere. I like to stay with people. I want to move. I want to travel. I don't know if the life was correct at the time. The passion was there. The life was there. But I still have in myself, inside me, something that excited me to move, to go somewhere else, to do something else. So I had an opportunity for a company in Bologna for the natural gas car conversion I believe you know what I mean. So you convert a car from gasoline into natural gas or LPG according to the market, according to
Hmm.
governance, according to opportunity. And it was this company in my city that was producing the kit to convert from gasoline into natural gas. And they wanted to have a person like me. They wanted to have a person like me with a passion, with a interest, with experience. And they want to send me around the world to the people and the dealers and the importers around the world. And I didn't speak a single word of English at that time. No, not that now I speak English properly, don't get me wrong, but at least we can have a conversation. At that time, I could not even say I love you. Really. I didn't know anything about English. Zero. Total local guy. And so I say to the company, give me 3 months. I will back in 3 months. You keep the position for me. You like me, I want you. Let's work together. I'll promise you I'll back in 3 months and I speak English. They trust me. And so what I've done, I went back home and I start to learn English like a self-learning, start to try to open book and magazine. I had a very good opportunity to have a magazine. I didn't have home. I could purchase a magazine with both languages, Italian and English. Was actually a technical automotive magazine with both Italian and English on the side. So I could read and translate and try to learn. It was not enough. The time was going and my English was still, I couldn't, and absolutely I didn't have any experience. Because something is to learn a language, something is to speak a language, to talk like we are doing now. So I decided, okay, close everything, stop the book, stop the magazine. I fly to United States. I had the opportunity to go to United States, take my flight. I went to United States and I've been there for 3 months in the middle of the people, in the middle of the language. We call it full immersion.
Hmm.
I landed in Buffalo, New York, and the first week, I remember my head was like this. I did not understand a single thing. Even to buy food, I was like, gesticulate with the hand and move my hand,
Hmm.
and then was very, very, very difficult. But 3 months, thrilling. Passion, load. I learned. I went back home and I made the last interview with the company before to sign the contract in
Hmm.
English. They interview me in English. I passed the interview. I got the job. From that day, I was into the automotive. I was into the conversion and I was also traveling. It was wow. And I had the opportunity to start at that time to teach guys, technicians. And so I had the experience. I have the passion. I have the life. And I also have the English at that time. Wow, it was the best time in my life. Honestly, the best job of my life at that time. I was so happy. I was
Interesting.
well paid. Yeah, yeah,
Interesting.
that
So
was very
this is
good.
this is we're still okay. I like the building blocks here because one of the things that you might have seen it. If you haven't, it's okay because at the end of the day, I'm going to say it again. Training is one of the most important things that anybody in service can do. It is the most important thing that you can do, irrespective of whether you're at an independent shop, irrespective of industry, irrespective of dealership or brand. Training will make you more money. Period. However, training will also bring you other opportunities, and in this circumstance you've taken it upon yourself to fully immerse yourself into the training, aka the learning of the language, to get you into an opportunity that allows you to accomplish the goals that you've set about yourself. And the goal,
Correct.
essentially, let's be very specific here. You wanted to do what you were doing. You wanted to talk to customers. You still want to be around some form of transportation, whether bikes or cars or whatever. You wanted to be around the service side of things and you wanted to be around customers, but you wanted to be able to travel. This particular opportunity that presented itself gave you all of those things, but it required you to learn English. Now, these are the things that technicians that I seen, unfortunately, in my comments. You go on social media and you look at some of the less than spectacular feeds and forums of people talking about our trade. They're not getting trained. They're not going out and getting training. They're not going out and actively seeking out education or experiences, fully immersion or otherwise, to teach themselves something that helps them either level up their skill
Correct.
or level up their ability to acquire opportunities. So when I see a constant barrage of I can't get a raise or they won't give me a raise or whatever, well, what have you done as a technician? What have you done as a service advisor to level up your own skills to allow opportunities like raises, or more importantly, work for a different brand, work for the brand that you want, achieve some of the goals that you want to see down the road? Maybe those goals down the road are simply becoming a service manager. Maybe those goals down the road have nothing to do with the industry itself and everything to do with, I want to be able to retire my wife so that she can stay at home with our children. Maybe the goal is, I want to be able to spend a year in Italy so I can literally say to any race team, whether it's Formula 3, Super Sport, whether it's World Superbike, it doesn't matter, to say to a sports team, I want to be on your pit crew. I will work for free for a year so that I can be on the pit crew. And then when we're done in a year, I'll go back to wherever I'm from, whether it's America, the UK, Canada, Australia, Germany, it doesn't matter. But I want to be able to say and give them zero reason to tell you no. The same thing applies for a raise as much as the ludicrous little goal that I just presented. That's ludicrous, but it's still a goal. It's still an opportunity. Unless you get yourself experienced, trained, and educated and immerse yourself in the thing that's going to level up your abilities and your ability to acquire opportunities, it's not going to happen for you. Life doesn't work that way. You can't get closer to your family by spending more time away from them. You can't get closer to your goals by spending time not doing things to accomplish the goals. This gentleman here has done exactly what he needed to do to accomplish the goal, made a promise, delivered on the promise, and then executed on it and achieved the thing he wanted to do next, which has led a portion of the career into things like starting to teach dealers, starting to teach service managers, being with the customer as often as possible. Again, that's one of the reasons I didn't know some of this. I did some research and I didn't know that this was as deep as this was. I didn't understand that there was race team involvement I did the look. I didn't see it. This is really awesome because it's the tidbits along the way that make the journey even more relevant. And this is why I keep telling you folks that are listening, every story that's in service needs to be told because there is a tidbit, there's a nugget in there that somebody can go, I can learn from that. I can better myself so I can either make more money, be more productive, be happier, be healthier, whatever the case may be. He's just shared another nugget. And we haven't even got to the juicy bits of what the coaching looks like, which was the original hook. So you're traveling, you're teaching people how and where and whatever around the natural gas kit conversion kits into vehicles. You've done pit mechanic stuff for race teams for Formula 3 and for, you said, Eurosport. That's a Grand Euro. Sorry, what was
Super
the phrase?
Turismo.
Super
Super
Turismo.
Turismo.
I'm going to try and remember that a little better. Super
It's
Turismo.
okay.
I definitely need to spend some more time watching that because I watch things like
I'm not even
Bathurst.
sure it's still there.
It may not be. It might have
But you
iterated
can
across
find
the book.
you can find stories about that. You can find
I'm
old
definitely going to
videos
do that.
about it.
But Formula 3, I literally, like, this past weekend was an interesting weekend in Formula 1, to say the least. Plus, we had Argentina lose in the FIFA World Cup final, which was exactly what needed to happen. I'm sorry, my Argentina, for folks who watch the show, you guys needed to lose. I'm very happy Spain won. I was rooting for Spain the entire match. And let's get back to the show. So you've been traveling. Where along that way, doing conversion kits on cars and teaching people how and the why and talking to customers around and surrounding that, where did that lead back into motorcycles?
There is another step in the middle, a very long step, about 10 years step. Because at a certain point, after a few years I was doing these things, I actually very like the natural gas conversion. I've done gasoline, I've done diesel, and I've done cars and trucks and big rigs and small motorcycles. I've done, the natural gas or LPG in some case conversion is very, very vast. It is not anymore because with the electrification, electric vehicles, of course, there is a almost closed chapter. However, at a certain point, after many years I was doing that, I had the feeling I wanted to do it myself. And so instead of working for a company, I had all the knowledge, all the interest, all the power to do it myself. And I've done that for 10 years. And I moved from Thailand, Malaysia, Australia, United States. I've been in many places. And I mean, living and staying and working and converting cars and vehicles. And after 10 years, the market maybe me, maybe the market, but today is natural gas conversion is almost there. The market was not simple anymore. Not simple anymore. I had the interest to look for the future. So it was nice, was fun, was going up and down. And the future was something important for me. I wanted to have a family. I want to have kids. I wanted to have wife. So I needed more stability. More stability in a market that is going down is not so simple. And then I had the opportunity to meet Ducati, and then is where the journey in Ducati began, like almost 11 years ago.
Hmm.
And now because I had all the passion, the knowledge, all the experience. I had the English, but I also have the mindset to have seen the service and the workshops and the dealers also from the other side, not only from the side of the employee, but also from the side of the employer. So Ducati was very happy about that. They actually they gave me a lot of trouble to get past through all the interviews. I've done 5 or 6 interviews to get the job done. They really screened me under any point of view. They turned me around in and out, and then they were very happy. And then they give me this job, who was the international service manager here in Asia Pacific. I'm calling you now from my home, not far from Bangkok. I now taking care of 15 countries, like you said before. That's probably true. And many service managers, because in each country we do have a lot of workshops, and the workshop there is the service manager, then there is the service manager for the workshop, the service manager for the area, for the nation, for the country, and then we have a different level of service management. So and now I'm here and I fulfilling all I wanted, all my dreaming. I really doing exactly what I wanted to do. And I meet people of different religions. I meet people of different cultures. I meet people of different colors. I meet people of different way to do, way to eat, different languages. Of course, I don't speak, I speak some Thai. Of course, at 11 years living here in Thailand, I can speak Thai a little bit. But the great part is that today I talk with Taiwan. Tomorrow I talk with Indonesia, and then Malaysian, Philippines, and Thailand, and Cambodia is fantastic. Is exactly what I wanted. And finally, I get there. I'm traveling. I'm having a family. I'm stable with my job. And I mean stable in fact that I am able to do it. And I am, of course, having trouble every day to solve problems and things, but I don't find myself into the position of, oh my God, what I have to do, how to do that. I have enough experience to do that. And so I can pretty well. I'm very happy. And this is what I would say a good part of my life. I fulfill many things. And when I'm looking at myself, when I talk to my wife, I talk to my daughter, I say, are we sure? Is this what we want? Are we sure we don't want to do something else? Are we sure we don't want to travel again and move on the family? Come on, everybody, let's go somewhere else and do something different. Is something that in somehow, like I said to you before, there are many starts and many beginnings because every time I make a step and go forward and do a little bit more, I still feel, despite every time I'm happy, I still feel I want to do something more. I want to do something different. I don't know what is the next step. Whenever it comes the opportunity, I'll probably get the next.
Interesting. So the couple things, and we're very close to where I think the super tactical stuff comes in, but there's lots of life stuff up to this
Yes,
point.
we
And
know there.
one of the tidbits in there I want to kind of double down on a little bit with you. Most in my experience, as well as my own personal experience, when you get the sensation of, do we want more? Do we want something different? Do we want to move? Is this what we really want to do? Is this what I would really want to do? In my experience and in my own experience, that's every year, every 2 years, and maybe every 3 years. You've been with Ducati for you said roughly 11 years. Before that, you spent a decade for doing conversions and traveling the world to do conversions. For someone who likes to actively and avidly say, is this what's next? Is this the best of whatever? You stay with basically doing two things for 20 plus years. That is not a
Correct.
normal thing. So I want to think about and I want to talk about just a little bit and go to your mind here a little bit. Ambition, patience, grace day to day. Your ability to stay steadfast in what you are doing every day, the ability to stay doing what you've been doing for the better part of a decade in two different places, instead of hopping around every time your mind went to maybe there's more, maybe there's something different. Instead of conceding to that, you didn't and you stayed and you have built a life that sounds like you dreamt of. What are the things that you had to either tell yourself or do or learn to find yourself in a place of patience, of steadfastness, of resilience so that you didn't allow the fleeting moments of ambition to take hold and have you jump?
Well, like you said, the opportunity arrives very frequently. We are surrounded by many opportunities. The question, we see them. The opportunity is there. Do we catch them? Do we see them? Are we ready? And so when we say that in 20 years I've done two things, that's correct. But it's also correct that in those 10 years before, in these 10 years now, I developed my knowledge, I developed my ability, and never was a single day the same on the other. In the first side, to develop the companies and to develop the markets and to develop the things, and the difficulties of, pay the salaries and the difficulties of the taxes and and the fact that if you don't sell, there is no company that bears your back. You have to survive in somehow. And that was not something that gives you the chance to change or the willing to change every year or every 2 years. If you want to produce and do something, you have to dedicate to these things for a long time. And maybe 10 years is a sufficient time to get the knowledge on something and to get yourself where you say, okay, now I understood. Now I got the point. Now I, start to look somewhere else. I don't mean I'm tired or bored or annoyed by what I'm doing, but it start to begin to be inside you. After 10 years, you start to have it inside. You know what you have to do. I don't mean expert, but a little bit of experience. And so your brain start to open wide. So what the opportunity that always pass in front of you, at that point you see the opportunity because you don't look just down what you're doing. You open your eyes. At least that's what happened to me. I don't mean you or the other people doing the same, but you open your eyes and say, wait a minute, the world is around. Let me see what happened. And then the opportunity always pass. You get what you like. So now, this is happening also, I've been in Ducati for 11 years now, and I'm pretty sure I have got many opportunity and met many people, many companies, travel everywhere, in Europe and in Asia. I just was busy with my job. I was just happy with my job. For example, it took me a lot of years because when I arrived in Ducati, the 10 years ago, 11 years ago, the Ducati Asia Pacific are we now, we have a production plan. But it was actually at the beginning was,
Mm.
I don't mean just open company because all the Ducati experience were there, but the Asia Pacific situation was at the beginning. So I arrived there and I found everything to be built. And I went into the workshops and they didn't even have the tools at that time. I have to start with a little bit of practice stuff. I have to start to give the tools to the people, start to give the tool to the workshop. This is wrong, and teach them how to use and tell them what to use and what not to use and why, which model, etc. And then it took me maybe a couple of years for 15 countries. And then they have to have the corporate identity. So now we have the tools with the corporate identity. People, the clients have to come into the Ducati workshop and you have to start to recognize. I'm talking about Ducati, but this is exactly the same situation for any workshop or for any brand. People have to recognize where you are. They have to recognize the professionality, have to recognize the color, have to recognize the skills, have to recognize all the environment have to be trustful. And then
Hmm.
we have to start. So we give the tools, we give the training, how to use the tools, we give the corporate, how to talk, not only the color and the dress code, but also how to talk to the client, what to do. The corporate is including also the procedures, the mission, the vision, the strategy, all these things. And then we have to move all we have done into a profit because
Hmm.
don't forget that the most important part of the workshop when I ask, the first thing I ask to my trainees is the question is, what is the most important part in the service? And 99% of the people answer the customer satisfaction, which is
Correct.
true. But it's
Correct.
also wrong. It's true, but it's wrong. Customer satisfaction is not the target. Customer satisfaction is a tool because the most
Ooh.
important part is the profitability. If you want to repair the car, if you want to repair the motorcycles, you have to have money in order to pay the salaries, to pay the rent, to pay the
Mhm.
tool, the bills. If I give a free service to everybody, I change the oil for free to everybody, I change the tires for free, I tune your carburetor for free, everybody will be happy. Customer
Mhm.
satisfaction, 100%. And then I close because I get no money. So the most important part is the profitability, is getting money. So you can keep your workshop open, your dealership open, pay the salary to the mechanic, to the clerk, and then how to do that? How do you do that? With the customer satisfaction. But customer satisfaction is not give service for free. Is give, like I've seen and I heard on your podcast many times, is give the correct amount of quality and job done and parts in order to make the price seems to be cheap. You don't give
Mhm.
a cheap price. You don't give a discount. You don't give the lower price. You give service that is above of the price. The perception is that the client gets more than what he paid. So the example
Those
is
are
pretty simple. If
I want to go back a little bit before you continue a little bit. There's a tidbit in there, and it's absolutely epic. And I love being put back on my backside and having to rethink about how I've been thinking about things. Customer experience, customer satisfaction is not the target. It is a tool. The target
correct.
is the profitability. If you don't
Yes.
use the right tool, you can't fix the car. If you don't use the right tool, it's hard to be profitable. Your analogy of you could make everybody happy and fix everything for free, but the target is to make money because you can't do anything for free for any length of period of time without going bankrupt as a business. And that's one of the things that I think we don't talk about as a of thought, whether it's business or just in service alone. We have a lot of folks who talk about customer experience as the be all end all. We have a lot of folks who talk about the profitability, the numbers, the data. I'm a data guy. I talk about it a lot. I like to think that I talk about both as much as I possibly can because they are hand in hand. You need one to do the other. You need one to do the other and vice versa. Because if you aren't profitable, you can't have a business. If you don't have good customer satisfaction, customer experience, you're not going to have a business. So when you're talking about how you started to upskill yourself and then how you have helped upskill each one of these workshops in 15 different countries, in workshops that basically started with the brand logo on the side of a building and basically nothing else. They needed to understand what the brand meant. You talked about mission, vision, and values in there. Having them understand what Ducati as a brand, what their mission, vision, and values is for the business, and then helping them understand what tools to use and how to use the tools correctly. That's a journeyman apprentice kind of standpoint, but you're talking about that from a business standpoint, not just being on the bench or being in the service drive, talking about cars or bikes or semis or whatever the case may be. It's still a journeyman to apprentice kind of scenario. Business, service drive, workshop. It's still a download of information of experiences of the last 30 years of your career dealing with customers, dealing with business, dealing with sales, dealing with service, and how you implement both sides of the business. And I mean both sides in the fact that it's customer satisfaction and profitability in the thing that we were talking about originally. That you need to have both. Teaching these people, each one of them, whether it's a technician, advisor, a service manager, a business owner, a franchisee of Ducati, or even going back another 10 plus years, talking about you being the franchisee, as it were, the business owner. Branding, how your mission and vision and values trickle down into the products or services that you sell and how important that is. So that's something that's not talked about in that tactical way enough, I don't think. So let's try and be a little bit tactical with that. Is there perhaps something that you can share, either a story and an anecdote or something that's happened in the last 10 years that any service manager that you come across could learn from? Let's say from that mission, vision, values and how it relates to the brand that's on the door?
The most important part is what you say, that everybody knows how the piston are going up and down, and that when even when you're talking to a service manager or a chief manager or a chief mechanic or the mechanic independently of the position of the most important part is to understand what is the target, like you said before, the core values and the things and the strategy of the company. The first thing I do, I talk with the owner. The owner is the person you want to meet first, the person you want to understand, the person you want to share your point of view. Why are you visiting them and why are you there? What do you want to do? Because they see you're coming and you have your logo here and say, what this guy wants from me. I'm doing my stuff, I'm doing things, I'm busy. And then the point is exactly that one. There is not mainly training is more like a coaching. And today is very important to know about electronics. I will never stop to consider suggesting to forget about piston and controls and electronics is the first things that you have to master if you want to be a technician. But there is one side. You can know everything and anything about electronic and repair the car, repair the motorcycle, and you your job. But if you don't understand what is behind that, what is the core value, how to manage your presence in the workshop, that probably won't last long. We need good people, good technician, but we need there to understand the strategy behind. Sometimes we have people working 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours, and then they are perfectly repairing, and then there is nothing to do or not proper strategy or the other 4, 5, 6 hours in the day, and that is a lot of money lost. So you have a good technician that works over there, and then all the rest of the day because the poor management is getting lost and the profitability is not there. So we have to start from the owner to understand what he wants, how much money he wants to do, how much money he had invested in the organization, the operation, and then go from there with the KPI. And it is incredible. Sometimes we discover it didn't give KPI to the GM or to the manager, to the workshop manager. It seems strange, but maybe in North America, the situation is a little bit more developed, but by Asia Pacific is sometimes it happens. And then you have to create the KPI for them. How much money you want to make? What is the cost of your structure? And then you discover they are perfectly, or sometimes they are not doing it all and that they are losing money. So starting from there and then coaching the GM and the service manager and a cascade of KPI till the guys. So the KPIs are something you have to start from the beginning, of course. And this is what happens, what happened to me at the beginning, what I say to you before, we have to start from the tools. But the training is mainly a coaching from the top to the bottom because look, most of the times the technicians are very valid. They know what to do. They know how to do. They repair the motorcycle. Every day you want to move a guy from that brand into your brand. So you have to teach them a little bit what is the characteristic of your engine, your car, your motorcycle. But this is pretty easy stuff.
Hmm.
The difficult part is to manage these good people. You have a lot of good elements, but if they don't work together, if the manager is not actively positioning them in the workshop and give them the correct timing, it is not working. So for me, the most important part is to engage with the owner, understand what he wants, and then from there start to coach the manager, the GM, and the service manager, and in cascade. Once you've done that, most of the guys are very nice. Most of the technicians, I very rarely found bad technician. Actually, is at least here in Asia Pacific, the guys are very nice, very well prepared. They know what to do. They are passionate. They know what, but they need to be driven. So I think the most important part is to understand the strategy of the company, give them the structure, and then from there going down. That's what I've
Interesting.
done for the time being.
Interesting. And this is I want to say this succinctly, and it's difficult because my history, my experience, I'm still working on being a more positive person. So my immediate mechanic brain goes to it's leadership's fault. I have to take a step back and realize that I play a role as a technician, as a service advisor, as a service manager into the success of the business, the profitability of the business. I have to measure my accountability to what I can do in a day. But it is nice to hear that from someone who has been in lots of countries, lots of businesses, lots of automotive and now and motorcycle businesses, dealing with service and sales, dealing with owners and service managers to understand that the most successful way for you to see a business thrive is to start at the top with a manager, turn them into a leader who understands the goal, their goals, understand their goals, understand the KPIs that are required to achieve those goals, and then slowly trickle down through the organization to understand what each person within the business needs to do to achieve those goals at an ownership level.
Absolutely.
And cascading backwards as we go, shall we say, down the ladder in a medieval way to say it, but as we go down the ladder, we find technicians and service advisors and salespeople at the bottom of that ladder. If we don't have an owner and a GM who understands the mission, vision, values of either the corporate identity or the business themselves, if they're independent owners, if they don't understand the business as a whole and they don't understand the KPIs required to achieve those goals, the people at the bottom are never going to be able to achieve the things the owner wants. Because if the owner doesn't understand and the GM doesn't understand, and the corporate fixed director doesn't understand, they might have a semblance of understanding, but if they don't understand, and I mean be able to have a whiteboard behind them and literally be able to write everything out because they know it cold. If they don't know that, it's very difficult for the rest of the team to be able to perform to the level that they expect. And that's why I love the analogy is that the captain steered the boat and everybody else rows. But if you have 50 people on the team rowing and they're rowing in different ways and in different directions, you're not going to go forward. The idea is the captain of the ship, whoever it happens to be, the GM, the owner, the franchisee, whoever it happens to be, if they don't have a clear directive, a clear mission, vision, values, a clear set of goals, KPIs to move the boat in the direction that they want, and then communicate it well to the rest of the team. And then make sure, as to your point, make sure each person on the team is in the right seat. Make sure, maybe people don't row. Maybe people are monitoring how much water they're taking on because old boats leak and you got to bail them out from time to time. Maybe they're watching ahead to make sure there's no icebergs that they hit. Having the right people in the right place doing the things that suits their purpose, suits their passion, suits their capabilities is as vital as their passion to be there and show up every day. One of the challenges I see on a regular basis from service managers and fixed directors and owners is like people don't want to work anymore. They love to say this phrase, people don't want to work anymore. I don't think that's the case. I think there is a select few that don't want to work because there's always going to be that. There's always going to be a select few who don't want to work, who want to show up every day when they feel like it, who want to earn a paycheck without having to do any work and want to leave disrespectfully.
Hmm.
There's always going to be those people. But I would suggest that the majority of folks, irrespective of age or shall we say generation, doesn't matter whether it's X, Z, alpha, whatever you want to call them. They want to show up. They want to do well. They want to be praised for what they do well. They want to be held accountable for what they don't and given structure. If you don't give them structure, and this is going back to the tidbit here, if the owner doesn't understand the mission, vision, values, and goals and how to achieve them, the person at the bottom who needs structure every day isn't going to be able to perform. So their lack of performance by someone who doesn't understand the business is going to be presumed they don't want to work. So to your point, structure, to your point, understanding the business, to your point, KPIs that make sense for the business. And to your point, you need both customer satisfaction as well as business profitability to make the whole circle keep going in circles so we get to continue to play the game. I really appreciate
Absolutely.
that. So one last tidbit that I ask everybody on the show, and it's interesting that I get to ask somebody who's been all over the world in different countries doing different things, all to do with service for the last 20 plus years, 30 plus years. What's your one piece of advice for that technician out there to help them be happier, healthier, more productive?
Well, I have two of them, if you don't mind.
I like
The
it.
first one is before to be ready. Do not wait. Like I remember the example I gave you before for my English, and as you can see, my English is not ready. But I went to talk to the company, even though I didn't have any single word of English. And I told them I'll be back in 3 months. And I begin to work with them, even though I was not ready for English. And I take myself ready while I was already engaged with the company. So begin before to be ready. When I want to do something, I have to begin. I have to start. And you say that before, when we want to get a promotion, when we want to get on a step up, when we want to change of career, we ask to get done. But we have to, first of all, start to think in that direction, start to work in that direction. Like you said before, I want to get a promotion. I have, first of all, begin to start to do more. I want to become the service advisor from a mechanic, or I want to become the GM. I have, first of all, act like a GM, and I will be a GM later on. So begin before to be ready. That is, first of all, my favorite point and act and advice I can give. I always start to do things, even though I have no clue how to do it, and I have no understanding of that. And then the second part is very related to this, because the things always look to be very difficult until you start to work on them and you master them. If I want to be the GM and I'm a mechanic, I have to start to think like a GM. I have to start to learn. I have to start, like you say, get information, literature, maybe videos, maybe books and stuff, maybe finance, etc., and start to think in the way the GM thinks. And then I have to, at the beginning, I will find that very difficult, because if I'm a mechanic, now to start to think of finance, management, taxes, and people and salaries, etc., it might sound difficult. But if I start to work on it, it will become easy while I'm working on it. And at the end of the day, it will be something you know exactly how to do, and you do with the most natural thing. As I said before, it took me 10 years to do step by step. Each step, it took me 10 years. But at the end, in the 10 years, maybe 10 years for somebody could be 2 years, 3 years, or 1 year. That doesn't have to be always 10 years. But at the end of the time, you will find out that what you think it was difficult or impossible at the beginning, you master and you do it like a
Hmm.
daily things. Begin first and work on it, and it will be not only with count, but it will be pretty simple to do. And the people will recognize you as a general manager even before you realize so.
I think that's a
Start
great
to think
analogy,
about
and I
that.
think that's a great piece of advice.
But
I know several technicians now who have that aspiration now that I've been publishing more content with general managers, talking about the steps, seeing that technicians can make the progression to become general managers. There is not a many, but there are some. And the fact that there are some means it's possible. And to your statement, if you want to become a general manager, you have to start acting like one. And for those out there that I know you're listening and watching who want to become a general manager from a technician, you have to start acting like a general manager. You have to start learning the things that a general manager does. And I understand, and to your point again, some things you don't understand what you need to do. Some things are very complicated and very challenging, but we have diagnostic trees as a technician. When we have a complicated fault or a complicated failure in front of us, we have diagnostic trees that break all of those 50, 100, 200 different diagnostic steps down into individual steps. Very, very small steps. You take one step at a time. The hardest step is the first step. And that's why you, good sir, said start before you're ready. Take that step before you are ready. That
right,
small step, start moving. Thank you very much for
100%.
today. Thank you very, very, very much for today. There has
Thank you.
so much in there that so many people, hopefully across many countries and many industries, will be able to take in and learn from your sales background of traveling the world and getting kits installed and the service that's part of that. The pre stuff about F3 and the pit team mechanic work and how those passions you're going back to childhood, 7, 8 years old, that ignition, that 30 meters on a motorcycle from when you were a kid that ignited a passion that has lasted 40 years or 50 years almost since then, to moving mountains with teams across 15 countries and teaching service managers and business owners and technicians how to understand that strategy and mission, vision, values really play a role every day into customer satisfaction that allows you to be business profitable. Those lessons across all of those tidbits, those nuggets, thank you very much, good sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Folks, I think we're gonna cap it off there, and I think you're gonna enjoy this episode. I think you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, please make sure you like the episode, make sure you share the episode, and make sure you send it to somebody that you think needs to hear this, hear these stories, hear these anecdotes, hear these lessons from an individual who's been in the industry, around our industry for 30 plus years. And we'll end with a quote, as we always do. And I think I love how poignant it is today. A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. And that's John C. Maxwell. Folks, negative pushes, positive pulls, and always clean your toys before you put them away.